SMT Nation, we back. Nation, according to FCC Maps, if you wanted to get the best network access in Rhode Island, you would be going to T-Mobile because they have the largest amount of 5G in the state. The question is that enough to get customers to switch to T-Mobile if they live in Rhode Island? So the question is really about whether or not you believe 5G is a difference maker for people. Let's talk about that in today's video. The article actually showed up in my Google News feed. Shout out to the Google News feed. It's incredible. You have awesome articles suggested and recommended to you. Really, really good. I'll be sure to link this for you in the description. Let's discuss this. Ways to support the SMT down in the description as well. All right, so within the article, it specifically cites the FCC coverage map, in which you have AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon all getting mapped based on network availability. More specifically, it gets granular because you can take a look at how the networks stack up with providing 4G LTE and 5G coverage. So when it comes to just having network availability, just having a network, all three had perfectly good coverage according to this article. So I'm guessing you could click on the FCC maps and you can confirm this for yourself. It says here that when it comes to faster 5G coverage is where things get a little different. That's where T-Mobile gets to kind of take the cake, right? They're the network that has the largest, most copious amount of 5G across the state of Rhode Island. All right, now this is obviously going to show in the 5G data speeds. It's going to show up in the 5G availability, whatever the major markets are across, the state. But AT&T's got a pretty large coverage gap in 5G. Verizon, I'm sure, has large coverage gaps in 5G. Those two companies haven't had 5G mid-band spectrum licenses available to them as long as T-Mobile has, so this all kind of makes sense. AT&T has some low-band 5G, so does Verizon. That may have been existing in some places, but there's no surprise to this. You know what I mean? So can T-Mobile effectively market this and take share in the state of Rhode Island using this data to their advantage? I mean, that is something that I can't confirm. I don't know if they've been able to effectively do that. I'm guessing you need billboards, you need campaigning, you need advertisements and commercials. But when it comes to overall networking, everybody's got coverage in the wonderful state of Rhode Island. So looking at some of these numbers from the FCC map, you'll see that Verizon and AT&T had the most coverage across the entire country. So speaking beyond Rhode Island, Verizon at 55.05% of the country covered geographical space, and then AT&T at 55.11%, so they're even more than Verizon. And then T-Mobile came in at 35.3%. So that's way behind. So coverage still the fatal flaw of the T-Mobile network. While they do have a lot more 5G than their competition, they have a much smaller network on a national scale overall. So I don't know. It's almost like, if you want to have T-Mobile and have the fastest network access where they have network access, there's that option. Or if you want access to a larger, more available total network, you're going with either AT&T or Verizon. And specifically, based on the FCC data, it's AT&T. So I kind of bring that up here in this video, and I wanted to discuss it and ask you guys, and you can comment down below, how much does 5G matter? I mean, obviously, networking requires capacity and speed to serve all the customers that are using the network simultaneously. You're not on a network by yourself, so you do need capacity, you do need speeds. But you can clearly see when there's a discrepancy, you just have to have an available network. It doesn't matter if it's 4G LTE or 5G per se, right? Or am I wrong? I'm going to ask you guys. T-Mobile clearly has more available 5G and faster 5G on a national scale, but they also lack coverage on a national scale. They still lag behind their competitors by a very large margin, right? 35% for T-Mobile for total network access across the geographical space of the US, 55% for both AT&T and Verizon. And it seems to me, especially based on customers not necessarily just fleeing those two networks, they're not convinced that they don't have a better network at AT&T and Verizon, right? So But it would be interesting to see the data that comes out of Rhode Island. Maybe I could check the market share. We'll see if I can get those numbers and see if it has made a difference, right? If that 5G has translated into growth for T-Mobile. Let's see what the year brings. Let's see what happens moving forward. If T-Mobile can close the coverage gap a little bit in 2024. But tell me about this. What are your thoughts and opinions on the report? What are your thoughts and opinions on the topic? You are the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.